and welcome to Mom Autism Money.
Our guest today is Corinne Schmitt. She's the blogger behind Wondermom, Wannabe, where she shares tips and tricks to make home and family life more fun. She's a published author, podcast host, and public speaker, but she's most proud of being mom of 5 amazing humans. She's also a very good friend of mine, someone that I admire and who have helped me a lot, and I am so grateful that she's here with us today.
Oh man, I am too. Today we're going to be talking to Corinne about teaching financial literacy to kids and ways you can shift your money mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. And that's going to be regardless of your income level or economic circumstances. We'll actually be talking to Corinne again next week about some of her organizational tips and tricks. So be sure to subscribe to Mom Autism Money on your platform of choice, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever. That way, the episode will automatically be added to your queue and you won't miss anything. Corinne has so many great tips and insights, but before we get started talking to her, we want to give a big thank you to today's sponsor, Able United. You've heard us talk about Able accounts here on the podcast before and what a smart tool they can be. And we're excited to work with Florida's Able United because right now, if you open an account before June 30th, you will get a free $50 deposited into your account. So be sure to stay tuned during those ads to listen and learn more information about that offer. All right, let's talk to Corinne. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mom Autism Money. Today, we are here with Corinne of Wondermom Wannabe. And Corinne, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm wondering if you can take a couple minutes here to just introduce yourself and what Wondermom Wannabe is all about.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you too today. So I'm Corinne and I'm a mom of 5. I have 4 biological children and then we adopted another one when he was 13. I was married to a U.S. Marine for 28 years. So lots of moves from one side of the country to the other, which is probably the only reason I have any type of organizational skills, because it certainly wasn't me naturally. They were developed over time. Another thing about me, I'm 100% creatively challenged. I'm completely analytical, like puzzles, spreadsheets, that's my jam, but being creative, not my thing. So just for complete transparency, if anybody's expecting words of brilliance and magic to come out of here, they won't. They're all pretty analytical. So Wondermom Wannabe, I started because my youngest had started school and I needed like something to fill my days, but I still wanted to be there, like to get my kids on the bus in the morning and to be there when they got home from school, because there's a 10-year gap between my oldest and youngest. And the last thing I wanted was my teenage son to get off the bus and then be getting all of his life lessons from other 15-year-olds. And there's just not a lot of jobs that give you that flexibility. So I heard about blogging. I read a book about blogging. And then the same day I finished the book, I started Wondermom Wannabe. And it was Wondermom Wannabe because for the 15 years up to that point, I had been a stay-at-home mom. So momming is what I knew. So I figured that's what I would write about. And I chose that name because all of my favorite people are really amazing moms who don't realize that they are. And that's whose attention I wanted to get. All those moms that felt like they weren't quite good enough, to kind of show them that they were and to give them maybe some tips and tricks to make them feel like it if they had to fake it till they made it. So that's who I am and what I did.
You also have a lot of really good, interesting content about teaching kids about finances. And I'm just wondering if there's any top tips that you might have for parents for teaching your own children about money.
Yeah. I feel really passionately about this. And again, it's that financial insecurity for me. I never wanted my kids to feel that way. Like I don't want them to be afraid. And I'll say, I'm going to go on a tangent for a second, but a few years ago, it was Michael Hyatt, I think the best year ever, where he talked about scarcity thinking and abundance thinking. And for some reason, that opened up my brain in a whole new way. It really changed the way I approach anything. And I realized that most of the things I didn't like about myself, most of the people I don't like, aligned with scarcity thinking. Like I just, being competitive with other people, trying to hold other people down, acting out of fear. Like I don't like it at all. So this concept of abundant thinking and just kind of knowing everything's going to work out or believing that it will and being okay lifting up others because you know that that's better for everyone, right? Like everyone's going to lift each other up. Once I really turned on to that and decided that's how I wanted to live my life, even more so now, I feel like I need to teach my kids to think that way with their finances. So to be smart, like you don't just go giving it all away because you assume the universe is going to bring it back to you. Not that, but being confident enough about finances that you can live not in fear. Fear to me is such a scary, yucky emotion. And I feel like people make really bad decisions when they're afraid. That to me it's been a passion of mine now for a few years, is to shield my children from that kind of fear. One of the reasons too, like we worked really hard to earn money so that we could provide some advantages for them so they didn't have that kind of scarcity fear and mindset. Tips though, for like helping your kids beyond that. I am a big believer that kids should be introduced to these concepts as early as possible. And I probably messed this up with my oldest child because I wasn't quite there, where we didn't talk about money until he hit high school. Now, if you're there, like if you have a high schooler right now and you haven't started talking money, like it's not too late. He turned out just fine. He's making a great living for himself and he's very happy. So you can get there. But I feel like you want your kids to make all their money mistakes when they still live at home and when the money's so small, right? Like I would much rather that my 8-year-old blow $10 on something they didn't really need than have my 20-year-old blow $2,000 on something they didn't really need. So the sooner that you can introduce your kids to making money, spending money, saving money, learning about investing money, because that's another thing. People don't talk about that, right? Like you just assume, I don't know, somehow, somewhere they're going to develop an interest in learning about mutual funds and stocks. Like, no, unless you happen to be a finance major, that doesn't happen. Or insurance. I've got a couple of teenagers. That frontal lobe doesn't develop till later. It's not going to occur to them that they are mortal. It's just not. So any of these concepts that have to do with money and, long-term security, you want to introduce as early as possible. If I had to do it all over again, we'd probably start as soon as they could walk and talk. Honestly, again, if you missed that boat, and I did with my oldest, like it's never too late, but I think just introduce those concepts early. And I think in a specific order, this is the order that to me makes sense. Maybe for other people, it doesn't. First, it's income, right? Like they need to make some income because they have to have money in before we start to talk about where it goes. Setting up some sort of allowance, or even if they're getting money as gifts, tracking that and having some way that they get money. But I really think gifts are nice, but making them earn money in some way. And I will say on that topic, I also have pretty strong feelings just personally, and not everyone agrees with me. I don't believe in paying kids for chores that they should be doing anyway. My kids never got paid for making their bed. You got to make your bed, but you could get one for washing the car. Things that were contributed to the overall family that went above and beyond what they ought to be doing just to be a member of the family. Everybody does things different, but giving them an opportunity to earn money so that they understand the value of money in exchange for a half hour of my time. I had to give something of myself to get this so that they get that value and then kind of have pride. They're able to do something to earn it. And then after income, then paying bills. And again, this is tricky. I grew up in a family where my parents covered all of our necessities. And I felt very strongly that that's what I needed to do. And this is where personally, I think I flubbed up. Like I did not introduce my kids to the concept of paying bills early enough. Because the reality is when you're an adult, we can't get away from that. And you need practice doing it. And you need practice negotiating bills. Like if I were to do this again, I missed this boat, but this is what I would recommend to people now. Make them chip in for things. There are lots of things my kids could have chipped in on that were extra. They weren't bills we needed to take on. Paramount Plus I'm paying for now because one of my kids wants to watch a certain program that's on Paramount Plus. Would I have Paramount Plus otherwise? No. So my child needs to pay for that. You can give me the $5 a month for your Paramount Plus to watch the one program that you want to watch, right? So there's that. The Xbox, Live, like the Xbox Live subscription, if you've got a child that does video gaming or, I think there's all sorts. I am not well versed in video games, but I know there's all sorts of ways that video games allow you to give them money. So those things, right? Like there are bills that they can have that are tied to the luxuries that they have. And I think that is where once they're earning income, you have to introduce bills to them.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Did you know that previously individuals with disabilities were only allowed to save $2,000 without jeopardizing the important benefits they rely on? By opening an Able United account, Florida residents can now save tax-free while maintaining public benefits like Medicaid and SSI, and all with the help of family and friends. Able United offers investment options to fit your savings goals that can be spent on qualified disability expenses like housing, transportation, and doctor's appointments. Plus, the state of Florida is a leader in removing Medicaid recovery on Able accounts. Right now, through June 30th, when you open an Able United account, you'll receive a free $50 contribution. Join the thousands of Floridians who are saving with Able United by enrolling today at ableunited.com. That's ABLEUNITED.com. ableunited.com.
Before any of the other things, like I know everybody does savings first, that's down my list, that's later. Budgeting, I think and this is why I think it needs to be in this order, because this is another thing. Nobody talks about budgets with kids. We don't do it with kids because they don't have bills. You don't need a budget till you have bills. This is why I think this is the order it has to be. So income, bills, then you get a budget. The sooner that your child learns to budget, the better their whole life will be. Like I really believe in that because it's a habit, right? Like as our parents, all we're trying to do is get our kids to have better habits than we had. You want them to be better people. Most of us don't start budgeting till we're adults. And we just don't. Like you don't have a need to until all of a sudden you realize more money is leaving your system than is coming in. Then we realize, oh, we need a budget because we're in debt, right? That's usually what does it. So don't do that to your children. Introduce it sooner, how to budget their money. Then we can talk about savings. Like that's where savings to me comes in, is in the budget. Because now, ideally, you're not matching up your income and expenses. You want your income, your bills, and then a little bit extra that you're putting towards savings. And this is when, with my kids, I drilled down on compound interest. Right? Lots of charts. There's lots of charts. Go pull up some of the charts because the kids are fascinated by them, right? Like if you start saving $1 a month now, when you're this age, you're going to have all this money, or you have to start putting away, so much more 10 years before. The charts work me. And again, visual, like most of our kids are visual learners too. Pull up some of the charts and just show them the difference to talk about savings. Now, bank accounts, that's a tricky one with kids. But again, I think the sooner the better with the bank accounts. And I know lots of people are kind of scared of giving their kids anything where they can pull money out, like with the debit card. And this is another mistake I made. I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had armed my kids with a debit card sooner. Now, whether it's a prepaid card so that you put money on and they can only hit a certain limit and then they don't have fees or whatever, or it's an actual debit card that's tied to their savings account or checking account. Because again, I would rather that my child make a mistake with a $10 splurge than a $10,000 splurge or whatever in between. I'd rather do it while they're still living at home. I can log in and monitor all their stuff because as a minor, you're always added to the account. So again, the sooner the better. The sooner that they can start to develop those habits and they learn those lessons when the stakes are small, I think the better. And then the other thing that I think we miss the boat on a lot is shopping. We don't teach our kids shopping. We think that they're getting it because they come shopping with us. But does your child know you check for promo codes every time before you make a purchase online? Does your kid know that you do comparison shopping, right? Like a lot of us do that alone on our computer or on our phone, and they're not aware of that. Or at the store, like, are you talking through all of that? Or are you shoving something at your kid while you're trying to decide between which bottled water you're going to get based on what costs the least per unit? Having those conversations so they understand comparison shopping so that right away, like as soon as they start spending money, they're getting a better value. They have those skills. And I think it's a skill, again, we just kind of assume our kids will develop because it just makes sense to us. But you're doing it already anyway. Like, why not teach it to them early? And then investing. And I think a lot of people are super scared about talking about investing because kind of like buying a house, I feel like nobody really thinks that they know how to do it, right? Like, you have to do it and nobody really wants to talk about it. I was surprised when we bought our first house that more of our family members weren't chipping in with tips and advice. And I think it's because it's a really big decision. You don't actually make it many times in life. So you never have confidence that you did it right. And then investing, most of us, we don't have time. So unless you happen to be a finance major or, this just really happens to be your jam, I think a lot of us don't have confidence about what we're investing in. You think that everybody else is somehow doing it better and you don't want to give your kid the wrong advice and then have them go tell someone the wrong thing. But the basics of investing are not difficult, right? Like the idea of risk versus reward. The riskier the investment, the higher the potential interest, but also the higher the risk that you're going to lose your money. So just talking through those basics and introducing them to something as simple as, a CD. That's where my kids started. They had their savings account, then they all had CDs, and then they all got mutual funds. I don't think you need to talk to them about doing shorts. They don't need to know all that. My son got into stocks after he had a job and he wanted to play, but I never talked about stock. I talked about stocks, but we didn't do stock investing. And that's when it gets tricky. If that's not your threshold, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be teaching them how to run the market, but to talk to them about, solid investment options. And then finally, credit cards. And I know that scares people, but again, I'm in favor of giving it to them as high school students. There are a lot of banks now. I don't know how many credit card companies, but like a lot of credit unions and things that will let you add your child to your credit card, and you can set a limit for individual cards. And then that way they can't overspend and they build credit. They get added as an authorized user. So they're building credit. I think that's it. I don't know if those were tips necessarily, but it's my philosophy, philosophy on kids and finance.
That's huge. That's huge. Thank you. And with the credit cards, there's also secured cards are an option, which again, when they hit that limit, they're not going to be able to overspend. So you have to put down a deposit first, and you can only borrow against your own deposit. I really loved what you said about investing too, because especially as women, well, there's a few reasons we don't invest as often. The first is that our income is stunted compared to men's. That's just a societal factor. When you don't have extra income to invest, you can't put it in the market. But we do know that when women actually do invest, it's just like what you were saying. It's a confidence gap because men tend to go towards riskier investments and they tend to think they're way better at this and that they can time the market. And those are really quick ways to lose money. Right. And so when we look at long-term investments, like when we're talking about retirement, when we're talking about buying and holding for the long term, women actually are way better at that. And so if you yourself feel like, oh, I just don't have the skills, or, oh, I just don't know enough, don't get too overwhelmed with, Corinne, you were talking about shorts and stuff. First of all, that's not a good idea anyways. No. You're not a hedge fund banker out on Wall Street.
Right.
That's not the goal for most people. Your goal is to save enough so that you can stably retire. And so that's a completely different type of investing. And women, we are better at it. Yeah. So if you were feeling like, oh, I don't know how to teach my kids about this because I don't understand it, you don't need to spend your entire life or go get an MFA or anything in order to understand this stuff. You can educate yourself and then teach those simple lessons to your children. I'm so glad you brought that up because that is a huge thing, is that we just don't feel confident enough ourselves, even though when we look at it, we actually perform better. So,
well, and honestly, I think part of it's that moms love a set and forget, right? Like we're far less likely to get in there and mess with stuff just for the sake of messing with it because we want to be able to focus on the 8,000 other things we've got going. So it doesn't surprise me we outperform them because we're probably just not in there getting scared and messing with stuff when it ought not be messed with. To me, investing is just a higher return savings account. And I think if you present it to your kids that way, so like if we aren't going, if we're not trying to go get like a master's in finance or investing, like we're just trying to provide options, it makes it less scary. And it's easier to give to your kids that way. Like when I explain a mutual fund, basically you're just buying one little piece and everybody else is putting in money. So you get the benefit of having this diverse portfolio without having to sacrifice a ton of money. That was easy. It makes it sound almost fun, right? Like, oh, I get to play in this big party and I only had to bring like a paper cup. It's not a scary thing, but it's really not scary if you give it to them young.
And now a word from our sponsor.
¿Sabías que anteriormente a las personas con discapacidades solo se les permitía ahorrar $2,000 sin poner en peligro los importantes beneficios de los que dependen? Al abrir una cuenta Able United, los residentes de Florida ahora pueden ahorrar libre de impuestos mientras mantienen beneficios públicos como el Medicaid y SSI, y todo con la ayuda de familiares y amigos. Able United ofrece opciones de inversión para ajustarse a su meta de ahorro que pueden gastar en gastos calificados por discapacidad como vivienda, transporte y cita con el médico. Además, el estado de Florida es el líder en la eliminación de la recuperación de Medicaid en las cuentas ABLE. En este momento, hasta el 30 de junio, cuando una persona abre una cuenta ABLE United, recibirá una contribución gratuita de $50. Únase a los miles de floridianos que ahorran con ABLE United, inscribiéndose hoy en ableunited.com.
You brought up so many good things. With the scarcity and abundance mindset, I know we have some parents in our audience who, because of their circumstances, because of the ableism that their children face, and then how that impacts their lives and their abilities to bring in an income. First of all, we want to teach you guys about ways that you can build your own business, that you can really build that wealth and that independence. But if you don't have that ability to go out there and make a massive income right now, you can still adopt an abundance mindset. One thing that I like to bring up in these situations is a lot of times when I've known people who are in that scarcity mindset and you're living below the poverty line, what that ends up looking like is resignation. It's like, oh, well, the welfare office is trying to kick me off every 3 months anyways, so I'm just going to give up because the system isn't built for me. Yes, that is true. They will try to kick you off. That is part of the way the system was built. Even if we just look back at the 2 years of the pandemic, there have been programs like rent assistance. There have been programs like PPP. There have been programs like expanded unemployment. And the vast majority of those are over now, which sucks. But if you didn't go out there and get the money while it was there, if you were like, oh, well, I'll never qualify for that, or, oh, I'm going to have to appeal my unemployment claim, so I'm just going to give up. That's where I see a lot of the scarcity mindset getting in the way of you accessing the resources you need. Or you even think, oh, well, I don't want to take from other people. There's like this huge misconception out there that this tax system is a dollar for dollar exchange between taxpayers, which is not how anything works. But you accessing the resources you need, if you don't have the ability to go out and make an income, that's a part of the abundance mindset. That's a part of recognizing that there are certain societal failures, that's why these programs exist. You can go out there and access them. Yes, you're going to have to fight for them. Yes, it's annoying and it's messed up, but again, I don't want anyone to feel discouraged or feel like I can't have an abundance mindset because I'm forced to live on Social Security. You can still go out there and access the resources you need. And with that abundance mindset, I feel like that's what gives you the persistence you need to continue pursuing things, because so often the door is shut in your face.
And I'm glad that you said that, Bryn, because I don't mean to, and I probably didn't state this well, the scarcity abundance mindset, because of the words, right? Like you would assume that if my resources are scarce, of course I must have a scarcity mindset. And if I am living in abundance, of course I have an abundance mindset. And it's certainly easier to adopt those mindsets given those circumstances. But really the difference to me, I've seen it in a couple places. Scarcity mindset more has to do with, it's almost a pessimist versus an optimist viewpoint. You know, we've seen it in blogging. Like there are different places where you agree to, you know, you're going to go like someone else's post in exchange for them liking yours. And I see scarcity mindset there when you'll see someone that will go back through and find all of the people that didn't like their post, right? Like, well, I liked your post, you didn't like mine. What a colossal waste of time that is to go do that. Or, you know, in my husband's family, he's one of 14 children. So there's 14 kids in that family. There's a lot of competition between those brothers and sisters for attention, for accolades, whatever. And so a couple of them, rather than trying to make themselves better, they're constantly tearing everyone else down, right? Like they're the ones that'll gossip about everyone else. It has nothing to do with money. It's a scarcity mindset because you are focused now on bringing the negative from everywhere else than on the things that would make you happier and just doing better in life. So like you're right, like the resignation, like that feeling of resignation, like just throwing in the towel, like, oh, it's not going to work out anyway. That's what's going to keep you in a position where your resources are scarce, as opposed to, you know what, I think this is going to work out. We're in a tough spot right now. What can I do? What opportunities are there for me? So it's easier to think that way when you're not worried about money, for sure. For sure. But you'll be there longer. You'll be in scarcity longer if you don't figure out a way to change your thinking to be more positive. And it's so easy to say, and I don't mean to make it sound that it's easy to do. Like it is so easy to say, but I do really, really believe that if you can make this shift, good things lay ahead. You just have to get yourself there.
It's the same thing with having a child with an autism diagnosis, right away, you think you have to go to Social Security. You put yourself in this mindset that you can't get ahead. You can't find a job because of your child, and here I am. I know that I'm going to reach $1 million. Like, that's my goal. I will find any resources. And you know me, but like I've been, and I told Corinne, the only reason I'm in this state is because of the benefits I get to help my family and for me to grow my wealth. And that's how it is. It's just that mentality and like this mindset that this diagnosis, it's it. We're doomed. I don't have a future. And that's not it. I mean, I enjoy my kid. My kids were meant for me. And you met my kids. And we had such a good time. We might be the lamest family in your eyes, but when we talk about facts, it's like our thing. Like we can go on road trips, we can do so many things. But I also know that my kids can thrive. Like I have one in college. 7 years ago, they told me she was not going to go to college. But if I would take that mentality and then be like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and just not make any money or not learn how to make money from home, because I know for a fact that I cannot go outside and work. But I get what you're saying. It's this thing, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to apply for medical assistant because it can take for someone else. But there's services that your private insurance will not cover for your special need child.
No, definitely. Again, everybody's situation is different. And maybe you are facing some real barriers that they're not of your imagination, they're not of your manifestation or whatever. And I think that at the core of that really is just this obstinate ability to kindle hope.
Right.
And that when that hope is dead, that's when you start really, really kind of having trouble and getting buried and stuff. You shared you've been in this scarcity mindset before. I don't want to make this sound like it's what's that thing, The Secret? That's bull. I'm sorry, but you can't just like magically manifest anything into your life. But I do believe that if we kindle hope, we open up far more opportunities for success.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, what are some of the ways that you kind of shifted your mindset and you kind of kindled that hope and that ability that it could potentially be done?
So, a big thing for me, it was funny, it was at a conference. I sat in on a session. The speaker was talking about manifesting, right? Like manifesting the things that she wanted in life. And the way that she explained it for the people that were anti-woo-woo, and I'm sorry to use that term, but it's like how we referred to it in my house. She's like, you don't have to believe that the universe is manifesting your joy, right? Like you don't have to believe in that concept. What she said was she really wanted to meet Oprah. That was her goal. She wanted to meet Oprah. So she said it a lot and she told everyone she knew that she wanted to meet Oprah. What she said was she's putting it out there, right? Like, so like on the very woo-woo sense and putting it out in the universe, I'm hoping that it's going to bring Oprah to me in the very cosmic way. Like that could be it. But also in a very practical way, because everyone that she ever met knew that she wanted to meet Oprah. You never know when the person you're like you're telling the hairdresser that the hairdresser might know Oprah's hairdresser and be able to make a connection. So eventually, I have no doubt she's met Oprah by now, like zero doubt that she's probably met Oprah by now. She had not by the time that she was speaking, but it's setting the stage for life to take you that direction. And so for me, it was lots of intentional efforts to set that stage. That coupled with the scarcity and abundance thinking, like that shift in my mind. And it is a constant, like I slip still, like everything I do, trying to keep the house clean, trying to keep my systems organized. I am human and I fail constantly. I do, going through the divorce, like I had some real scarcity moments where I was mad at him, or I just felt like life was against me. And it is a constant revisiting of, is this who I want to be? It's a choice. It's a choice I am making right now to either be miserable or to take action. And it is just constantly reminding yourself that you've got that choice. You've got the choice to do it. Not always, like circumstances are going to beat you down sometimes, but you still have choices to make. And sometimes that choice was calling Joyce or calling my friend Susan, who gets my brain better than anyone. So that if you can't get there, I feel like having the right team in place is also really powerful. So if you can't get there on your own, bring in the squad. And I do. I lean on my squad constantly. I don't like the person I'm being today. Like that's usually what I lead with. I don't like the person I'm being today. I don't want to be this person. Here's what I'm thinking. Fix me. I've literally used those words. There's no secret. There's no magic. You don't just flip a switch. And even if you feel like you flip the switch is going to flip back on you. It just has to be the choice. It has to be what you've decided you want for yourself. And then you've got to have some sort of system in place to stay that line. And I don't know, if you're human, you're going to fail. Like I said, I failed. I'm not the best person I want to be every single day, but I'm better every day, better at staying in that place this year than I was last year, and better than I was the year before. So as long as you give yourself some forgiveness too, like just know that it's gonna happen.
She
Absolutely.
needs a book.
No, that was beautiful.
Corinne, where can we find you?
So super fun family card games. It's all, different card games to either play as a family, or it's broken into group games, games for 2 players, and then individual games. It was written for children to be able to read. My target audience was like 9-year-olds there. So, because that was about the age that I started playing card games and tried to learn magic tricks and things like that, which probably makes me sound like an uber nerd, but it's me. And then I have one on super tricky riddles for kids, brain teasers and things. But yeah, you can find me at Wondermom Wannabe. That's my main site. And I've got, like Bryn said, I've got some posts there about teaching your kids about money. I actually just did a sponsored post for Navy Federal that actually walked through all the things I talked about today with, guiding them through income and then, bills and things. So, and then I've got some printables. I have lots of printables, actually, over 200, I think, at last count. Many of them designed to help you just be more organized, either at home or like fun activities for kids. If you subscribe on really any post on my site, you get access to the whole library. And then I do have some for sale in my Shopify store, which again, if you're on my site, you just go to shop and then you can see everything I have for sale there. But I don't know, go check out the free stuff first. Like there's plenty of free things you can grab off of my site before you try to go spend money anywhere.
Thank you so much to Corinne, and thank you all so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review on your platform of choice. You can also connect with even more content on our website at momautismmoney.com, or by liking our Facebook page, which is linked to in the show notes. We'll see you all and Corinne next week to talk about easy ways you can hack your brain to get organized.
Bye.